Welcome. I'm Mayor Westmoreland, and today we have with us Paul Jerome, our Eagle Mountain City Administrator. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you, Mayor. Good to be with you.
Yeah, thanks for being with us. So Eagle Mountain is a very busy city. There's a lot going on.
Always.
And so we're going to talk about an important item today. What shall we address today, Paul?
Well, we're going to talk a little bit about water. You know, it's a lot. It's something that's on people's minds right now with the drought. So that's what we're going to address.
The drought is definitely a concern, and one that it concerns all of us. And how the city delivers water and the steps that the city has taken to ensure that we have enough water are very important subjects. So where does our water come from?
So it comes from a couple sources. We've got wells in our city that we have throughout the city in different locations. They're usually accompanied by tanks. That creates the pressure. So once the water is drawn out of the ground from those aquifers through that well, it's put into a tank, creates the pressure that's needed to be able to provide that water to the homes. But we also have a pipeline that's coming in from the other side of the valley that is provided to us by Central Utah Water Conservancy District. And it's administrated by them, but that's another source that we're getting water from.
So we have redundant sources that we can pull water from, which is, that gives me a little sense of security knowing that we have options there. Can you tell us a little bit about how water works here in our city and in the state of Utah?
Yeah, so we've got an interconnected system. All of the water system throughout our city is interconnected. So those water sources, no matter what's being pulled from, it actually mixes together. You have the different wells in different parts of the city that water that's drawn out of that well probably, it mostly stays localized into that area that it's closest to, but it is interconnected. So during the winter months, we have one well that actually produces so well that we can provide basically all the needs of the entire city when people aren't doing their outdoor watering and things like that. But during the summer months when people are, that's when we're kicking on all those wells that we have, as well as drawing water through the Central Utah Water Pipeline. That water is actually being pumped into the city from a pump that's actually in Saratoga Springs, has to come up the hill through Pony Express Parkway, and then makes it into the overall system.
So you mentioned that we have a number of wells. Do you recall right offhand how many wells the city has?
We have 7 right now, but we actually have plans to relocate one that's actually in a power line corridor. That's one of our biggest producing wells, well number 1. And then we have the need for another well that we're actually in the planning stages to actually drill near well number 3, which is in the Hidden Hollow area. So that's something that the state actually monitors and says, okay, how much water do you need? How much are you actually using? And how much can all of your sources produce? And they also, monitor our storage. So each of those tanks that I was speaking of earlier, that's part of what's called a fire storage. You want to make sure you have enough for if there's a disaster or whatnot, that you can actually provide enough water to be able to fight fires and things like that, as well as be able to meet the needs of residents.
So it's all very well managed. What about the concern about someone else taking my water, or a big business coming in and using up all the water? Can you address that for us?
Yeah, so each business industrial partner that we have in the city, they actually have to make sure that they provide their own water rights. So every entity, even developers of new subdivisions in our city, they have to basically allocate water through water rights purchases to dedicate that water to the city. And then we just need to make sure that whatever that amount is that they've dedicated to the city, that we have the ability to draw that water out of the ground. And that's one thing that we want to make sure that we're monitoring, and we take into account how much water that we're actually billing out to each type of customer. And we want to make sure that the water rights that they actually dedicated match that water consumption.
So it's all very well managed. No one can take someone else's water. We know how much water is available to us. And interestingly enough, Eagle Mountain has a very low water rate, and we don't need to delve into that deeply. But just I think our viewers, it's something for them to know that the city works hard to keep their rates as low as we can, in spite of the challenges, and certainly just making it all work together, making sure we have enough water and making sure we have all of the right equipment to deliver that water no matter what, because water is number one in Eagle Mountain. In fact, the city was started because of water, over water.
Right.
And
It sure was.
our goal as a city is to be able to deliver water under all conditions. If there's a natural disaster, we want to make sure that water flows, even if there isn't power, for example. That's why we have generators at some of our well sites, and we'll be adding additional generators as we continue to make our system more robust. So as you mentioned, we'll be improving 2 well sites with new bores, so we can add additional equipment and put them in better locations, and adding a whole new site altogether. So all those things work together. We're always looking for ways to improve our system. Is there anything else that you can think of that our residents might want to know about Eagle Mountain Water?
Yeah, I know one of the things that we did recently is that we had an engineer come in and map basically our system, find out where the flows in the aquifer are going. That's how we determined the best locations for wells. One of the ones that we're actually going to be doing, the reason why it's going to go in close to one of our existing wells is that it's an area where there's good flows underneath the ground, and we can actually have that well produce quite a bit of water. We measure it in gallons per minute. So that well site can actually produce a lot of water because of where that water's flowing underneath the ground. And so that's what we look at when we're looking for locations for those wells. And we want to make sure we get the best bang for our buck. We don't want to actually have a well, and sometimes it's not an exact science. We don't want to have a well that we spend $2 million on and then it produces 600 gallons per minute, when we have wells that can produce 3,000 to 5,000 gallons per minute. We want to make sure we hit that mark instead. You did mention rates. I mean, we do have low rates. The last time when we analyzed the history of our water rates, the last time that we actually made a change was to implement a tier system that didn't really accomplish conservation, which is what a tier system is supposed to do. Most people stay within the first tier. But before that, we actually lowered rates. So really, we have quite low rates, but costs continue to rise, and so that's not sustainable forever.
So water conservation is a great topic, and I think that will be a topic for a future video as we, as a city, explore updating our landscaping codes to include and embrace xeriscape and low water usage landscaping, both residential and for the city itself. So you can look forward to that topic later. Well, thank you for being with us, Paul. This has been a very interesting conversation. And certainly if any of our viewers have additional questions, please let us know, and we will address those in future videos. So thank you for joining us.